This video was sponsored by Surfshark VPN. I know that you know what a VPN is. Just to recap for those in the back, security on public Wi-Fi, potentially cheaper flight tickets, and my personal favourites, getting access to streaming sites with geo-restrictions. Canadian Netflix has David Lynch's Twin Peaks movie. Watch the first 2 series first or you're gonna hate it. American Netflix has The Walking Dead but doesn't have all the Studio Ghibli movies. But with a VPN you can tap into a country like the UK and boom, you can watch all the Ghibli movies in all their glory. Expand your Pizza Booze telly nights today with Surfshark VPN, the only VPN where you can install it on unlimited devices under one subscription. The link in my description will give you 83% off a 2-year plan, as well as an extra 3 months for free. Don't worry if you find yourself unhappy with Surfshark, because they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Click the link in the description and try out Surfshark VPN today. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the review. I can safely say that The Lodger is one of the most fillery, passable episodes in Doctor Who history. Can this episode really be described as anything other than the James Corden episode? I've never really been big on the man myself, nor can I say the same for Gavin and Stacey. It was a popular thing back in the day, and obviously popular BBC TV shows tend to collide from time to time, for better or for worse. The Doctor gets immediately separated from Amy and the TARDIS, despite this factor never truly affecting the Doctor in an emotional way. Given how he is in constant communication with Amy throughout this episode via a device that he magicked out of thin air, their separation is rather fruitless too. Even their communication seems rather pointless when you consider that all they do is advise each other on stuff that truly wouldn't matter in the long run. The Doctor advises Amy on how to fly the TARDIS, and Amy advises the Doctor on how to act like an ordinary bloke. Meanwhile, ordinary people are being lured into James Corden's house because the buzzer speaker volume is simply too loud. These totally unbelievable Good Samaritans that simply wander into the property without hesitation or waking up James Corden in the flat below are the most detrimentally terrible segments of this episode. None of these people seem to understand that you don't have to walk into the house in order to speak to the person talking on the buzzer, nor do they seem to have anywhere else better to be. All 4 alluring buzzer sequences feel rather perplexing, especially the one with the cliché creepy girl with an equally creepy doll, where her rescuer seemed to be hypnotized by her own heroism. It was all absolutely hilarious. I did wonder why the neighbours hadn't complained about these constant cries of desperation, and concluded that writer Gareth Roberts simply wanted to extend the idea of a perception filter to the point of absurdity. More on that later. As far as this romance between Craig and Sophie goes, it's pretty textbook and doesn't really get challenged beyond Sophie's attraction to the Doctor's hot shower bod. Most of the interactions in this weird love triangle seem to stunt the episode rather awkwardly, and anybody who has watched merely one episode of Gavin and Stacey will know how this story's going to end. Strangely, the pair are seen at the start of the episode settling down for the evening, in spite of the fact it looks like the middle of the day right outside. The house is also haunted by a certain mold appearing in the corner of the living room. I actually quite liked the way they used this as a sinister reminder of the creepy man upstairs. It's not only relatable to anybody who has ever lived in a house anywhere ever, but also plays on the idea of people simply not having enough time to fix the leaky holes in their roofs or to greet their neighbours. By the end of watching this episode, most children will immediately believe that any mold that appears in their house is the result of decomposing human bodies, and will nag their parents to sort it out immediately instead of ignoring it like Craig. The Doctor arrives at the property one day after being ejected from the TARDIS, keeping the audience questioning as to what exactly he was up to in that 24-hour window. Unfortunately, this gap in time is left rather empty, leaving us to assume that the Doctor is actually a drug dealer.
Wait, the Doctor. Craig, what if he's a dealer?
As much as I love this line, I don't really know how well it would go down with child audiences. As an adult watching this episode, I can certainly appreciate the more mature jokes surrounding renting, as well as a couple of nods to the previous episode. This episode does show a level of self-awareness that allows us to expect and appreciate its minimalism, which is also heightened by the comedy.
Why am I telling you this? I don't even know you.
Well, I've got one of those faces. People never stop blurting out their plans while I'm around.
Even the idea of the Doctor assimilating into society sounded promising until we had this rather cringy montage of the Doctor playing football like he's Cristiano Ronaldo.
Football crazy, football mad, grab a Michael Star, play football with the lads.
It seemed to me like a rather missed opportunity not seeing the Doctor trying to play football and failing miserably. I can imagine that being more hilarious than this never-ending barrage of compliments he receives rather undeservedly. They attempt something closer to what I'm advocating for when the Doctor has a go at the captain for seeking another team's annihilation. Given his spontaneously acquired football skills, however, the line just comes off as irritating. Suddenly, everyone on the team started glitching out like some poorly dated YouTube poop because of the bloke who lives upstairs. This leads to an actual night of Pizza Boo's telly with the Doctor, who, in true flatmate fashion, decided to change the electrics at the most inconvenient time. The trio have a slightly good scene together, with the Doctor encouraging Sophie to do what she wants and not let anything stop her. The couple both seem to realise that they are keeping each other back, when really it seems like Craig is the one who's holding Sophie back. This is kind of interesting, but this soppy, serviceable music that is plastered all over the couple's scenes in this episode presents two conflicting messages. One presents the pair as being super cute given that they can't announce their love for each other, and another where this bloke is holding a woman back from living her dreams because he's irresponsible, fat, clingy, stupid, and lazy. And what the bloody hell is this creepy picture in the hallway? We then see the Doctor with a rather hilarious scrap-made contraption in his room where the plot continued to confuse me. Since the football match, he was made aware that the man on the top floor was causing weird time anomalies and the prevention of the TARDIS from landing. Yet only right at the end of the episode does he decide to go upstairs and investigate. Instead, he commands Amy to get the property's history and layout and decides to hire a spy? I honestly think it was a shame that we never found out how Amy was occupying herself in the TARDIS. 4 whole days went by in this episode. Does the TARDIS even have food? Or did it drop her off at a Tesco when she started complaining? Not sponsored.
Craig. I told you not to touch it.
I told you not to touch it!
Just like in the Christmas invasion, T appears to save Craig's life. Suddenly, the Doctor had taken Craig's job as well, and everything just started to spiral out of control. The spy the Doctor hired was this cat? This causes Craig to enter the Doctor's room and decides he's had enough. To stop being kicked out, the Doctor assaults him, which, instead of alienating Craig further, somehow explains everything. Suddenly, Craig becomes James Corden, even though he was basically playing himself throughout the entire episode anyway, and recognizes a character from that really popular fictional science fiction TV show. Only after all that bull does the Doctor finally go upstairs to investigate the top floor. I want to like the idea of something trying to build a TARDIS on top of Craig's building, but I simply can't. The problem is that all the details surrounding such a significant undertaking are left unresolved. Let's start with the fact that this building didn't even have an upstairs to begin with. The Doctor explains this to us as being the work of a perception filter. When I think of a perception filter in this show, I think of something that is concerned with hiding or concealing something. Even in the 11th hour, Amy believed for 12 years that there were only X amounts of rooms on her second floor because one was hidden from her view. In this episode, however, the perception filter is used to explain the opposite idea, that something is accepted as there when it truly isn't. I would think this is closer to disguising than distracting, and befits something like the, something the TARDIS has. What's it called? Oh yes, the chameleon circuit. Despite the machine trying to build a TARDIS which has one built into it, the Doctor insists twice that it's not.
Perception filter, it's more than a disguise, it tricks your memory.
The whole top floor just vanished.
Perception filter, there never was a top floor.
Another issue is the power of love. What a cop-out. It's so annoying that they treat the questioning of said details as though we're just too slow to keep up.
Oh, for goodness sake, the top floor of Craig's building is in reality an alien spaceship intent on slaughtering the population of this planet. Any questions? No? Good.
Yes, I have questions.
Not to mention the headache-inducing repetition of this climax.
People are dying up there. People are dying. People are dying. People are dying. People are dying.
The correct pilot has been found. The correct pilot has been found. The correct pilot has been found. You will help me. You will help me.
Help me. Help me. Help me. Help me.
Help me. Help me.
Hell, Amy finding the ring and restoring her memory would have made for a better episode. Guess we'll just have to wait for the repercussions of that in the next episode, won't we? So, did it suck? I do appreciate the episode more than I used to, but even that is being kind. The antagonist of this episode was undercooked as all hell, the romance was forced and dull, and I'm honestly surprised that this episode was greenlit in the first place. It can be funny and relatable as a fellow renter, but it's largely fillery and frustrating from start to finish. What do you think of this episode? Comment below your thoughts or join us for a chinwag on my Discord server. Don't forget you can get early access to these reviews by becoming a supporter of the channel over on my Patreon page. I give The Lodger a 3 out of 10. This is the first time since recording a Harry Potter video that I've recorded standing up. Not sure it makes much difference, but I feel a lot better. These totally unbelievable Good Samaritans that simply wander into the property without hesitation or even waking up James Corden in the flat below are the most detrimentally terrible episode. Fucking run out of it. We then see the Doctor with a rather hilarious scrap-made contraption in his room where the plot continued to... Oh,